Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for choosing this talk just after the lunch. Going to wake you up you a little bit. This was the right choice of talk because we are going to the future right now, future of PHP. So, good choice. Before diving into the subject, I want to introduce me a bit. I'm Alexandre Daubois. I'm part of the Symfony core team. I'm also author of a book called Clean Code in PHP. This book is about how to apply clean code principles directly in PHP. Sometimes clean code books are a bit generic, so here it's really applied to PHP. And I'm also an international speaker and PHP and Symfony expert at Decathlon Travel, which is a brand, a company based in France. Maybe some of you know Decathlon here? Yeah, it's known in the Netherlands. Right. So we are Decathlon Travel, which is the brand that sells sports trip. Like you want to, I don't know, maybe pay 2,000 euros and we take care of accommodations and all the whole trip. So yeah, we are selling trips now, sports trips, just for France for now, but maybe we will internationalize this one day. All right, Decathlon Travel, of course, is not my first experience as a PHP developer. And I would like to talk about the first encounter I had with extensions in the first job I had in my entire life. I remember that I encountered BCMat. I didn't know what it is at this time. I didn't even know what is an extension, actually. But what I knew was that BCMat had all I wanted to do at this time, and I found it really convenient to install it. So I was like, okay, let's install a BCMat extension, and then my work will be way easier for the task I have to do. I was really young, so again, I did not know what it is, an extension. I wanted to install it, but the lead dev told us, no way, we are not installing an extension. It is too complicated, and so on. So it was like 8 or 9 years ago, and our deployment process was complicated. We arrived at the office at 7, just to be sure that we can deploy and don't break anything before users are in the application. So yeah, good old times. And we didn't add CI, CDs, and so on. I didn't understand why the lead developer didn't want to install the extension, because at this time, Composer was already a big win. All you had to do is Composer require, and then you have your package, you can enjoy it and use it. So I didn't understand the choice, but I was young, so I didn't care to understand why. Then I wondered, what are those extensions we are talking about after all? Actually, extensions are a bit like Composer packages, but these are packages written in C and C++, directly plugged in the PHP core. This means that you have way more possibilities and way more compute capacity thanks to extensions, to be simple. There are many extensions that you already use every day, maybe you don't even know it. Just to give you a few of the well-known extensions. You have Redis, MongoDB, DS for data structure, Pickoff to have some code coverage, Xdebug also is an extension, Blackfire to do some profiling, Datadog also is an extension of PHP, and you have also RunKit, which allows you to even edit and modify the behavior of PHP native functions at runtime, and things like that. One thing you have to know is that the PHP source code itself is organized with extensions, like the ENTL extension, calendar, ctype, FTP, all the PDO's drivers, POSIX, and way more. All of these are extensions, but they are just built in the PHP core. Even the standard PHP library is an extension. You can do everything you want with extensions. One of the examples I really like is Falcon, which is an entire framework written in C as a PHP extensions, which promises which is a complete PHP framework written in C that promises low overhead, and you have an ORM, transactions, cache, view frontend, internationalization, form builder, and so on. And because it is written in C, it's supposed to be really quick. But because it's written in C, it's also way more complicated to maintain it and so to contribute to it. Because when you are writing PHP C extensions, it requires knowledge of PHP internals. So how memory works in PHP, how the PHP virtual machine works, and so on. So it's a bit complicated, but you have way more power. So these are extensions. How to install nearly any extensions. Let's go step by step in the process of extension installation. So first, you clone sources. Step 0, because Composer packages requires also to clone sources. So step 0, okay. You are going to execute build.conf, which will take your operating system settings and create a compilation script just to ensure that you can compile the extension. Then it will generate a configure script, which you will also run. It will perform other checks on your system, operating system, like what is the length of an integer on your system, do you have all the requirements that the library requires, and so on. If the configure script is okay, then it means that you are ready for the compilation, that you have all the requirements, all the dependencies, and so on. So you are going to run make, which will launch the actual compilation of the extension. And once you are done with the compilation, you are going to run make install. Make is going to produce a .so file or a .dll file, depending on your operating system, when you have the extension. All extensions in PHP are .dll or .so files. So make install is going to copy this file to the appropriate folder so PHP can read it at runtime. And then there is another step. You are going to add a line in the php.ini file to tell PHP, okay, load these extensions. And you are going to point the .so or .dll file so PHP know how to load it. And then you can enjoy extensions. So this was 6 steps. 7 if you count the source cloning. This is pretty nice, but if you compare it with a Composer package installation, this is it. So yeah, extensions, 6 or 7 steps, where Composer packages, you just have to require and then enjoy. So we can see that it's way faster to install PHP packages, and this is part of the extensions problem and why extensions are currently underused, because of the installation process. Also, yeah, you compile the extension, so it has a lot of dependency. It depends on your operating system. You have to install all dependencies yourself with brew or apt-get and so on. So for every computer, it's different, whereas Composer packages, it's the same everywhere. So there is already a tool that exists to kind of automate extension installation, which is named Pekel. So if you never browsed the Pekel website, this is the Pekel website. A bit old. This is a picture taken a few days ago. So yeah, a bit complicated. Okay, it's ugly, but it is very subjective. So maybe some of you find this beautiful, and that's okay. But there are some things that are wrong with it. There is a whole document written by PHP core developers on why the Pekel has problems. So here are a few. The website has maintainability issues. Of course, this is a tool that has maybe 20 years, so of course there are some depth. Website is super slow. If you ever try to browse this website, it can take something like 5, 10, 20 seconds to display a simple page. Pekel lacks of packages signing, which is a problem with security nowadays. It wasn't a problem in the old days, but now it is. Pickle is not able to find the latest supported PHP version, so it is up to you to choose the right version of the extension to install, depending on your PHP version. Pickle is not able to find the right version to install. And way more, but that's already enough. So there is another, an alternative, which is Docker. Docker helps us a lot when it comes to install extensions. And I'd like to share with you a GitHub repo, this one, Docker PHP extension installer. Thanks to this repo, you are going to be able to install extensions in your Docker files with just one line. So this is how it's done. So you are from PHP 8.4, for example, and then the key is the line 3, where you add a file. So you are going to add the install PHP extension file directly from the GitHub repo and put it in the binary directory. And then, once you have done this, you're able to just run install PHP extension and give it the extension that you want, and then it's ready to use. So in Docker, it's super easy to set up any extension. And you can also use version constraints, like you are used to with Composer. You can use also a specific commit SHA from the sources, and so on. This repository supports 152 extensions, so most of the most popular extensions are available through this script. So I really encourage you to use it if you are using Docker. This is nice, but this is too tied up to Docker. Not everyone uses Docker. PHP is made to be run on any VPS or little server or things like that, and you don't have to always have a big Docker container to run your application. So this is nice, but this is not universal. So it's not an ideal solution. So where do we go from here? Before presenting you where do we go from here, I'd like to talk just a bit about the PHP Foundation. I'm sure many of you know it, but in case you don't, this is a foundation that supports, advanced and develops the PHP language since 2022. It allows to reward and pay developers to spend part-time or full-time on the PHP source code directly. So yeah, it pays a PHP core developer team, which to enhance the language for the next years. And I'd like to tell you a bit of a story about the PHP Foundation. I was at SymfonyCon Brussels 2023, 1 year and a half ago at Brussels. And between two conferences, I was just in the corridors and so on, and I get caught up in a discussion between members of the Symfony core team, some people from JetBrains, Brent, that made the presentation this morning, was in the conversation, I think, and some maintainer of packages. They were talking about using Composer infrastructure to store extensions and something like that, but I didn't really understood at this time, because I was like, okay, big names of the PHP world, but I just don't understand what they're talking about. But I was a fool, because I then realized much later that this conversation was actually shaping the future of PHP. This was not just Symfony core team members and JetBrains employees and so on that were discussing. It was packages maintainers discussing with the PHP Foundation board members. And they were talking about creating a new tool that could be the new Pickle, and maybe leveraging Composer and Packagist in the process. So for the people who don't know Packagist, this is the website tool that stores all the metadata of Composer packages. So when you are doing Composer require or Composer update and so on, Composer is directly sending queries to Packagist to have all the versions, information, and so on. And as I said, maybe the PHP Foundation new tool, that could be the replacement of Pickle, could leverage Composer. So that was the discussion. That was absolutely big, but at this time I was like, okay, I don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so this discussion is done, and so the design can start. The design of this new tool, mandated by the PHP Foundation, can start. So the design started in the PyDesign repository of the PHP Foundation, as you can see, to understand where do we go from here, what do we want the tool to do, and so on. And one thing that you may notice, I will quote something, that is, I always know exactly how to name things. Nobody said this, ever. Why I'm telling you this? Because the first thing that you can see in the PyDesign file is this. Yeah. Many possibilities to name the tool. So we have broccoli, pickled, saxophone, violin, composter, paper, and so on. Many propositions here. So the tool. Okay, we don't exactly have a name right now, but what should it do? So let me remind you how you install an extension without Py, which will be the name that will be chosen a little bit after. So build conf, configure, make install, and the init directory, init directive in the php.ini file. The goal here is to be able to install extensions just like we do with composer packages. So you install, all the steps are hidden, and you enjoy. All right, so we know what we want the tool to do. And the main developer of this project is a PHP core developer, which is named James Titcomb, which is the main developer of the Py project. So yeah, Py is the official name, finally. It stands for PHP Installer for Extensions, but Py with a Py emoji is way better. In March 2024, this is the starting point of all developments. And the first release of Py happens 10 months after, or 7 months after, in October 2024. The first release, 0.1.0. And this is it. Now Py is released. The first pre-release, it is still in early development, but it's out, and you can try it. So let's see how you can use some basic commands of Py. So this is how you install Py. You can wget directly the .far, and it will download it from GitHub, and then you have Py, and that's it. It requires PHP 8.1 minimum to run it, but that's it. Everything is contained in the .far file to install extensions. So now that we have Py, it can first show installed package of your current installation. So, okay, PHP py.far show, and you are running PHP 8.4, and then all the loaded extensions that you have on your system, just to ensure maybe that an extension has been loaded and so on. Py is able to download a package. So download xdebug, and so you are going to download the sources, and you can see that it will be extracted to a temporary directory, which is .py, in your home directory. The download command does only just this, just cloning the sources. So cloning the sources alone isn't very useful in many scenarios, but you can then use the build command, which will do all the work I showed you earlier. So it found the package, it extracts the package in the right directory, then it will run phpeyes, which is a tool that makes many checks on your system just to ensure which PHP version you are running and configure the extension with the PHP version you are running if there are some requirements. Then the configure command is executed, and the compilation starts. And once the compilation is done, then build complete, and you can see that you have xdebug.so file, which is the extension to load by PHP. And that's it. You have all the steps hidden. You just have to type py build xdebug, and you're done. Also, now you can install extensions, so the output is nearly the same. but it will take the .so file and put it in the right directory. Okay. So you don't have to do these extra steps also. And now, since a few months, it also adds automatically the line to load the extension in the php.ini file. So you have nothing to do at all. Just like Composer, you can use version constraints. So caret 3.2, for example. It works really well. Some build options with advanced use case. You can give Pi another PHP binary. If you want to tell Pi, okay, compile this extension, but for this PHP version, for this PHP binary, then you can provide a path to a PHP binary that will be used to configure the extension compilation. You can do the same with the PHP tool that I showed you just earlier. Again, super useful if you have many PHP versions installed on your computer. Super useful to give it another PHP binary, another PHP binary, and so on. And you can even give Pi another php.ini file to use for the compilation, for the installation, and so on. So it's really configurable in case of having multiple PHP versions on your computer, which is something that happens really often. You can also just pass any compilation option. As I said, PHP, the source code of PHP is many. You can enable or disable some extensions with compilation flag like this. So this type of flag allows you to enable or disable feature while compiling the extension. And just earlier, I told you that Packagist is leveraged because actually all the extensions metadata, just like Composer packages, are stored in Packagist. And Pi uses Composer internally to do his job. So if you head to this website, so I don't have internet, so I can't show you, but you can browse all the extensions that are available with Pi and compatible with Pi just by going to this URL. And then you'll see you have Redis, Xdebug, Mongo, and so on. Maybe a parallel that Florian told you about this morning. Already available here. So just like Composer packages, you can browse them. But what if your extension is proprietary and you don't want to expose the source code and it's on a private Packagist or private repo and so on? You're able to use the repository add command. So you can add simply a physical path or a VCS with a GitHub repo, or even a private Packagist with a repository add composer, which is a type, and then the private Packagist URL directly. And whenever you don't need these repositories anymore, you just have to execute repository remove. You don't have to type the type of repository, just the path, and you're done. Some features highlights of the recent developments of Pi. So on the maintainer side of Pi, for the people who are creating extensions, they now have the possibility to restrict operating systems by excluding some OS families or including them. So here we are excluding Windows family and Darwin family. Darwin is a macOS family. So it means that here the only families that are compatible with these extensions are Linux, BSD, and maybe a few more. As I told you, automatic addition to php.ini has been a thing for the last few months of Pi. It wasn't the case at first, but now it works really well. And also, there is a support of the env-variable GH token if you want to provide a GitHub private token, so it can access GitHub private repos and so on. You can provide, it supports this environment variable. Another nice feature is the uninstall, which has been added a few weeks ago, where it can just uninstall any extension that has been installed with Pi, which means it will remove the line from the php.ini, it will remove the sources from the temporary Pi directory, yeah, little bit of cleanup here and there. So this is Pi, and I really hope that it brings a new era to extensions because they are really underused and underrated. I'm pretty sure this is because of the complex setup process. And I really hope that Pi will be one of the tools that are that will gain more and more popularity. We are trying at Symfony to bring this popularity further. I don't know if many of you know the Symfony CLI project. Yes. Okay, yeah. Raise your hand, that's a good idea. Okay. For those who don't know, this is just a CLI tool developed by Symfony for a few basic operations. You can start a web server from just one line and so on. And the Symfony CLI tool allows you, for example, to do a Symfony Composer require in your package, and it will automatically download Composer for you and things like that. And I had a discussion with the Symfony core team a few days ago about adding Symfony Pi, the Symfony Pi command in the Symfony CLI tool. I think it will be accepted. I can't guarantee that it will be merged in the tool actually, but I really hope it will make it to the tool. I don't know if I can maybe show you. I may, okay, like this and. So this is the Symfony CLI source code. So as I told you, you're able to do this, and it will just run Composer. If Composer is not installed on your system, it will download it for you, and then you're able to run it without any memory limitation. This is also something cool. You can do many things with this tool. Yes, there is just a list here, so with platform SH and so on. And the PR I'm writing right now is the addition of Pi. And so you would be able to do something like this, Pi, and then you have all the commands I told you about earlier. So I can't show you a build or something like that because I don't have internet right now. I can try, but I'm not sure it will work. Maybe with some caching can work, but I'm not sure. Let's try. Yes, no. Ah, yes. Okay, well, nice. So as you can see, it just extracted Xdebug with some cache, I guess. PHP is completed. So it detected that I'm running PHP 8.4.5. So yeah, it does what it needs. Now the configure is complete. So Pi just checked that I have all the requirements to compile Xdebug on my computer. And now the compilation is done and build complete with xdebug.so. And well, I used the build command, so the so file is not copied in the right directory, but you get it. So I can't guarantee this will be merged again. I'm not the maintainer of this tool, but I have good hope that it will help the Pi tool to be popularized across PHP developers. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, we have a bit of time.